Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I've already given you the esoteric meaning of the Rasa Leela. And Rasa Leela, as you all may know, even whether we want to or not, we are all obliged to do this round around him. If once a year, the whole earth goes around the sun, which typifies that source of all light, source of all life. So these are many esoteric reasons um, for the Rasa Krida. And so Rasa Krida is not something which was just played between the gopis and Krishna in Vrindavan. It's being done daily, every day, throughout the year, by the planets, by us. As I told you, as long as we are in that rasa, in that we are immersed in that rasa, then our life is always a Rasa Krida. Otherwise, it becomes a Dukkha Krida as it is now. So then, at that on that full moon day, when they heard the call of the flute, the gopis had been waiting for it, waiting for him to call him. So then they didn't need any more invitation as such. So they left everything they had and ran to him. Some were having a bath, some had put on one earring, some had was feeding the child, some had something on the fire, some was watering the plant, some was milking a cow. All of them just left everything. They forgot their brothers, their sisters, their husbands, and their children or whatever, and ran. Now you would say this is a very strange thing for especially Indian women to do, but the fact is that the gopis had already forgotten even their own bodies. So why should they remember any of these relationships which bound them to their bodies alone? All the relationships we have, like husband and brothers and children, and all our relationships with our body. And for them, that they did not exist as bodies anymore. They were already been spiritual beings. They had already become spiritual beings at the end of that test for them at the time of their vow. So they just left everything and ran for them. And hundreds of gopis ran. And the fact is, all of them running, and not one of them was aware of the other. They were all running. They didn't even look around to see, are my friends coming? Someone? No, nothing at all. Nothing was there except that intense desire to meet their beloved. That was the only single-pointed concentration on that alone. So it is said, why should Krishna have allowed these people who did not look on him even as God? They looked at him as their lover. How could he give union with them, give them such a high state? The fact is, if he could give liberation to a Kamsa who feared him, to a Shishupala who hated him, why should he not have given to these gopis who loved him beyond their very selves? They had no thought for themselves. They thought only of Krishna, 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 Krishna. Their whole life was filled. Krishna Mayam was their life. They ate Krishna, they bathed Krishna, they saw Krishna, they ran with Krishna, they played with. All the time their life was totally immersed in Krishna alone. So why not to them? So then they ran, and like it, eventually they saw their beloved standing under the tree, looking the very epitome of Manmada, the god of love. They couldn't imagine such beauty was standing in front of their eyes. And all of them stood. Then, now what were we to do? It was a sound. What were we to do? They looked at him with eager, expectant eyes. And his first reply, he wanted to test them. One more test he gave to them. He said, "What are you doing here, young ladies? Do you know what the time of night it is? And do you know that you are all young ladies, and you will be totally blamed for being corrupt women if you come at this time of the night to meet a young man like me. So it's not at all correct on you to go back to your husbands, go back to your parents, and that is the true way for a woman to behave." So there was another test, you see, for them if they would. So they looked at them, they were totally, they couldn't believe that the Lord of their life was really telling them this. They said, we have nobody else, Prabhu Bhartas, oh no, I always forget. You are our everything. You are our Lord, our husband, our friend, Prabhu Sakshi, Suhrata. Everything that we can think of is you and you alone. We have no other relationship to anyone in the world except to you. So please don't ask us to go back to these relationships which belong only to our body. We have only you in our hearts, in our mind, our bodies. Everything is filled with you and you alone. So please don't let us go back, he said. So then Krishna agrees and he says, all right. Then he allows them, they talk, and then after some time, after they're playing for some time, he tells them, they start preening themselves. Because this ego, however much you can try to put it down, again and again, even the highest, most evolved people, the ego will arise. In the gopis, maybe not so much, but just to show us that even they who had surrendered their entire being to them, after some time they started thinking, oh, we have got him all to ourselves. We are the most fortunate, we have got him all to ourselves. And just at that moment that they thought of that, he disappeared from there. He disappeared, and they were totally bereft. The moon was already high up in the sky. It was and they wandered alone in that forest thinking, and they all were so much immersed in Krishna that they started behaving like Krishna. One would stand with a flute like this, another would do another of his actions, and all of them started dancing and thinking that they're making some sort of mime, that they were Krishnas. And they started asking the trees, oh Champa, oh Jasmine, oh have you seen him, have you seen him, have you seen our beloved, where is he, where is he? And the trees just bowed and just showed like that. So they followed, and then they suddenly realized that one amongst them was not there at all. Actually, the point is, though the Bhagavatam does not say the word, apparently what is that she was Radha. And he had left with Radha because she was the only one who is totally without ego. So then they followed, and after some time they found her. She also was bereft. She had also been left, and she was sitting and weeping. She couldn't do anything else. They said, come, let's hunt for him. She said, I can't move from this place. Unless I will die right here if I don't see him. So then he, apparently at that time, he had made a garland for her, and he was putting a garland. The thought darted to her mind, I'm so fortunate. She's chosen me alone out of all these people. And the moment she thought like that, he had disappeared. In a trice, he had disappeared. So she was left bereft over there. So they all went back, and that's a beautiful song they sing, Jai Didedam Janmana Vrija. All his various incidents which happened in Gokulam, they take these incidents and start crying and singing that whole, eventually at the end of their pathetic plea to him, and suddenly he appeared as suddenly as he had disappeared. And there he was, Samavidabhusvauri Smayamana Mugambujam Sakshal Manmada. She suddenly appeared in front of him, looking as if even Manmada would get, the Lord of Love itself would feel jealous of the beauty of this Lord. Then he said, all right, he had tested them enough. He knew he had tried them to the utmost. And yet they had passed with flying colors because they never deserted. They never left him. They kept on after him. Whatever he tried to do, he teased them, he scolded them, he told them to get away. What all he did, all these trials they had passed with flying colors, as I said. So he said, all right, come, I know what you are. And then, all of them had come to there with half of them had not even dressed for a thing like this. I mean, if they knew they were going for a party, they could have dressed much better. Now, you all know that Jugmani Swayamvaram is coming, so how beautifully all of you have dressed. But they didn't know about it, you see, so they didn't. And moreover, they had, some of them, even those who were dressed, had only half dressed. Some had put kajal in one eye and The call came and she forgot and tried. One had put in earring here, and the call came and she left. One had worn only one part of her this thing, and the call came and she left that and ran. Everything was only half, because they did not exist as bodies anymore. So their body was not important to them. So he wanted everything in perfection, you see. So each one of them, he took a little kunja, something, a little arbor used to be made with all the little bushes, little arbors, and each one of them, he himself took them into the arbor and completed their toilet. What had put this thing where he put for that, where she had not worn this, he would put for that. All her whole dressing he did for her, and each of them was taken out, and they made him, they put all the uttariyams on this thing and made a beautiful seat, and they put him, and they pelted him with questions and so on. She asked him what's, the different types of love, he said. Some love even with you, some love you if you love them. Some love you even if you don't love them. Some love you, some never love you even if you love them. Some, what type of love do you have? He said, I don't belong to any of those categories. If I have left you, it's because, I wanted to strengthen your feeling for me. That's why I've left you. And then that is the time he plays this rasa with them. And the rasa again is not he lined them, in a circle, one Krishna, one Radha, one Gopi, one Krishna, one Gopi. And Krishna himself stood in the center playing the flute. And the fact was that nobody saw any of her friends. They saw only Krishna alone. Because really, if you saw with the eyes which he had given Brahma to see that this thing, if you saw it with that, then it was Krishna, 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 Krishna. Krishna is a Gopi, another Krishna, Gopi Krishna, and another Krishna, another Krishna. The whole thing was Krishna and Krishna and Krishna alone. He was playing with himself. That is the whole thing. So then, as Sri Shuka says, no one who looks at it with the eyes of lust will ever understand the true meaning of the rasa. Only those who look with the eyes of devotion will understand, because lust is of the body and love is of the heart, and devotion is of the heart. And therefore, that krida which the Lord did with the gopis is actually that krida which he does, Paramatma does with every jivatma, and now we think there is so many jivas. It's not true. There was only Krishna alone. Actually, it was, each one of them was Krishna alone. So until we know that, yet if you think of ourselves of different jivatmas, yet it is that play of the Paramatma with the Jivatma, and the call which he calls him with his flute is that call of that Paramatma. And when they have been totally cleared of all the dross, they were pure gold by now, they had nothing left in them except that Krishna was inside always. And thus he exalted them and took them to the highest peaks that even a striving yogi who has been meditating for hundreds of years, after so much of endeavor, that stage of bliss which they would get after so much of tapas. These women of the poor women of Gokula, these cowherd women, they got both the bliss as well as the joy of being with him, double joy that they get from. So then thus he had played this game of rasa with them for many nights, it is said. And then I have already told you the esoteric version of what rasa. By the end of the night was done, the moon was down, and all of them were tired, and when they went back to their houses, you see. And now the fact is that, why is it that it looks as if the Bhagavatam extols stolen love as being greater than marital bond of a marital? Why is this? This is a very, very important meaning here. In fact, all these things have such great esoteric meanings which are scarcely ever brought out by people, I feel. that it's very important that we know this. What is the difference between a lover, between a girl who runs away to meet her lover in the middle of the night without giving any, without caring for her house, her husband, or her, maybe her parents, or whatever it is? What is the difference between that and a wife? You see, the wife has everything in her, at her command. If the husband deserts her, the whole society will support her. She gets a part of his money, he gets a part of his this thing. Everything's done for her, everything, she's in the clear as far as name or fame or something is, she's totally in the clear. But not so the girl who runs, who goes away from the house and home. She, without even a word to anybody, because how does she know that her lover will not desert her? He might take her and use her and desert her, tell her to push off now. Who's to be blamed? Who will be blamed? Only she will be blamed. The society will point fingers at her, never at this man. And she will surely be thrown out of society because she has not, she has dared to flout the rules of morality as given by any society, especially Indian society. I don't think it matters anymore in the West anymore. But here it still holds good that a woman who runs away in order to meet her lover, giving up everything, is a woman who is considered as kind of a fallen woman. And she has no surety that this man will marry her. She has no surety that he will look after her. She has no surety that if at all that he doesn't accept her, that she can go back to her parents. Nothing of this is there. She has burnt her boats and she is totally dependent on this lover alone. This is the type of love which Krishna demands from his devotees. Though that type of love which doesn't care what the world thinks of you, which doesn't care what your people think of you, which is quite ready to burn oneself out on the fire of that love. She's not interested. She's not interested in something she can get out of her lover. She wants nothing, but she wants to give all the love that she has to her lover. The wife, as I said, on the other hand, has the support of the society. The society will take care of her if something. If the husband leaves her, she can legally claim her share. She can get what she wants out of that. So that sort of a bond is far inferior to this a person who is prepared to give up everything for the sake of God. That is the love which Krishna demands from his devotee. He is not, he's a very demanding lover. He does not say, you come and see me once a week, or come to the temple once a week, or all right, in 24 hours of the day, I will do some few namams, about 5 minutes every day, morning and evening, and you should be satisfied with that. After all, I'm a busy person and I have taken at least this much time I'm giving you. No. We are quite happy to think now that is all that we need to do, at least. I mean, this much I know lots of people who don't even do that much. So, this is not the type of love. He, as I said, he's a demanding lover. He wants 24 hours of concentration on him. 24 hours. Whatever you're doing, eating, sleeping, dreaming, walking, smiling, to whom are you doing? What are you doing? For whose sake are you doing? That constant thought that God and God alone, and that determines, even with the society throws you away or something, even if your own people point fingers of scorn at you and say, look at her, she's left her husband and gone, look at her, how terrible, what a terrible thing she has done. Nothing of that will make a true lover of God. She was a true beloved of God to turn away from her, because it's a flaming passion within her. There is nothing else in her world except that Krishna, and again Krishna, alone. So that is why the Bhagavatam extols the stolen love as superior even to the love he had for his wives. So this much I think we should understand. And after that, of course, that was his climax of his stay in Gokula. And after that, he There is beautiful song of the gopis. After that, they're constantly thinking of him when they're doing their work, when they're doing everything. All the time, their song shows that how much he is thinking of them. Now he just, other few asuras have come like Shankachoda and all that. He makes short work of them. Then. At last, then a few more asuras like Arishta, the bull, who comes, he comes through the small lanes of Vraja and was determined to kill Krishna at all costs. And Krishna, of course, catches him by tail and throws him off. Then there's a horse also called Keshi. Keshi, the horse from Sindh, he says. So he's a huge horse. He comes and he tries to kill Krishna, and that also is made short work of. In the meantime, Narada was getting pretty fed up. He thought, my God, this Krishna is keeping on doing his leelas in Vrindavan. It's high time he pushed forward and came to other places like Mathura, and let us have more of the leelas in Mathura. So he goes to Kamsa and says, Kamsa, I'll let you into a secret. The fact is that that girl actually who tried to kill you, who you thought was the 8th child of Devaki, actually she was born to Yashoda. And this boy who is your killer is actually Krishna, and he is now living in Vraja. And the fact is that the brother also, the two of them are there already, and they're making plans to come and kill you. So you better do something about it fast, because every asura that you have sent to kill them have all been killed. Now Kamsa had already started, believing that this is true. So he decides he must send someone to bring the children here. So he calls all his ignoble counselors and says, we are going to hold the festival of the bow. They had every year they had the festival of the Shiva's bow, which was kept, and they did puja to that bow. And so he said, everybody should be invited for that. And at that time he told his two wrestlers, Mushrika and Chanura, that they were to make short work of Krishna and Rama and dispatch them in no time at all. And then he asked the Mahoot, who had the elephant called Kuvalaya Peda, that he also should be, even before he entered into the arena, he should be killed by the elephant. All these preparations had been made. Then he thought to himself, now who should I send to invite? Because if I send as an invitation from me, they may suspect, and maybe Nanda will not send the children. So he thought of his prime minister, Akrura. Now Akrura was actually Krishna's uncle, and he was dying to see Krishna. He had heard all about him. He knew that he was living in Raja, and he was very, very anxious and keen that I must go and meet him. So then he called Akrura and told him, he tried to, pamper him with some nice words and said, uncle, please go to this and bring back Krishna and Rama and take your golden chariot with you, because then he thought he could tempt the children with this golden chariot. And Akrura was filled with joy when he heard it. All this time he had been wanting to go, but because of fear of Kamsa, he knew Kamsa would not let him go, so he did not even dare to ask. But here, the man who is feared so much, he himself tells him, look at the greatness and glory of God. He himself tells him, you go and meet him and bring him back. So he's so happy, and he goes, he sends Akrura to Brija to bring back Krishna and Rama to Mathura. And in the meantime, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So after that, Raskrida was over. As I said, that was a highlight of his life in Vraja, and few of the other asuras had been killed, and Akrura, we stopped at Akrura being sent to Vraja in order to call the children for the festival of the bow. So Akrura was already in a state of ecstasy when he heard that he was being sent. He had hardly believed. And this is the way that God works, you know. Sometimes when you want something done, it happens that the person you think of as your enemy itself will give you a hint or a method by which you can achieve how you can see God. So Akrura set out in the morning actually from Mathura, and it was nightfall by the time. It was only 12 kilometers or something like that. The fact is, he was so much in thinking all the time of how he would be, how he would see him, how he would look, and what we would tell him, and what he would reply, and all these things kept revolving in his mind, so that he allowed the horse to go as he liked. He never even drove the cart, and they just went as they liked. And eventually, it was almost nightfall when he reached Raja. And in the meantime, the Lord had been waiting anxiously for the advent of his devotee. As I told you some time ago, that the Lord has equal anxiety to see you as you have to see him. So he was, sometimes, I told you the example of some temples and all, when you want to go, if that deity of the temple doesn't want to meet you, however much you can try, you will never reach that place. However much whatever money you have, or whatever power or wealth or anything you have, that's not going to help you unless you get permission from the Lord himself, and then you will go without any difficulty at all. All those who have gone on pilgrimages will understand this feeling. So then he was waiting anxiously for his uncle to come. And from far, Akrura, from the very beginning, the moment he saw him from far, because both of them all neatly had come back from the forest, and they were bathed, and they were fully dressed and all ready and waiting, and they were also looking anxiously to find, is he coming, is he coming? And Akrura saw him from far, and he jumped out of the chariot and rolled on the dust of Raja. He said, how fortunate are the trees and the plants which grow, and creepers which grow here, because they have been brushed by him, by his clothes as they pass through him. And look at the dust of this Raja, because his footprints have been imprinted on that. So he rolled in the dust before he reached, and then he got up and he went there. And of course, Krishna hugged him and made him sit down, and Nanda came out, and all of them were, whole night, in fact, they hardly slept. So, because he said he has to take them away the next morning. So the news, of course, a small little village like that, news spreads like wildfire. And the gopis had also heard that somebody had come from Mathura to take away the darling Krishna. And his Akrura means, the name Akrura means one who, Krur means cruel. Akrura means one who is not cruel. So they said, no, his name should be changed to Adikrura, because he's not only Akrura, but he's Adikrura. He's the most cruel man we can ever think of, because he's going to take away our beloved from us. So they were hanging around the whole night. They were wailing, crying, and thinking of looking to see what was happening. And early next morning, before they had prepared, Nanda had prepared all the carts and filled all the given orders, such all the things which they normally take, butter and ghee and milk and curd and all had been prepared. All the gopas had also were coming. Only the gopis were not being taken. All the gopas were coming, and Rama and Krishna jumped into the chariot which Akrura had brought, a nice golden chariot meant to entice the little boys who had never seen anything like it before. So they set forth, and then the gopis ran after them, and they couldn't bear the parting. Somehow they felt that maybe he will never come back. So their whole soul was, they cried out, Hey Nada, hey Ramanada, Govinda, Damodara, Madhava, all these names which rent the air, and they cried and cried again. All these words, each one of his names recalled one of his particular leelas to him. That is, Govinda was when he was made the king of this thing. Damodara when he was tied up with a rope, and Madhava during the Rasa Leela. So each one of these names, they called out to him and cried, when are you coming? When will you leave? Why are you leaving us? How cruel of you! And they wept and went after the cart. So as I had written, I think in Krishna Leela, is that so Krishna left Gokula, followed by the carts of the Gopas and the hearts of the Gopis. So they just kept on looking and looking until at last the little flag was waving on top of the chariot. And after some time, even that flag could not be seen. And after that, only the dust which was being, and they just kept watching and watching and watching the whole day. They couldn't move. They stood like fixed, like without any, as if they had no life in them, and as they watched the cart going. And Krishna also looked at them as he left. He looked at all of them and blessed them. And then they reached. But Krishna was, as you know, was never one to look back. He always lived in the present. So then he pushed forward because life was going on. And when they reached, the Gopas made the usual. They made the little tents. They set up a settlement outside the city of Mathura. And Akrura begged Krishna and Rama to come and live in his own house. But he refused and said, after I have finished what I have come for, after the killing of Kamsa, I will agree to come to you and stay and meet you. So they spent the night there. Next morning they entered Mathura. And Mathura was in those days was a big city for these poor little village boys who had never seen a city in their life before. It was a great thing to see so many beautiful buildings, and the streets were sprinkled with rose water and rose water and with little shoots of wheat and shoots of all. This is the usual thing they do. And either side it was lined with all sorts of palm trees and all beautiful things, and the women were hanging over the balcony because they'd all heard of his prowess, and they'd all heard that that Kamsa had brought him here only to kill him. So they all were looking over the balconies to watch him as he went by. And after some time, when he was going a little way, he suddenly saw a washerman. He was carrying a lot of clothes, silken clothes meant for Kamsa's household. So Krishna boldly went towards him and said, "Come on, we don't have any proper clothes to come to a city like this. So why don't you give us some of your clothes?" The washerman looked at him very hotly and said, "Get off, you country bumpkins. These are being taken to the king of the land. You think these are meant for you guys?" So Krishna said, "Oh, well, okay." Then he just gave him one smack on his cheek and he fell down dead. And if all of you know the story of Rama, you know that the one who made him give up Sita was a washerman. So this is the time at that time he had sworn never to take revenge on anyone. But in Krishna Avatar, of course, nothing of the sort ever mattered to him. Whatever came at that time, he did it automatically. So that was the end of that washerman. Naturally, all the rest of them who had watched this, everyone jumped up to give him whatever. Next was a Sudama, called the garland maker called Sudama, who jumped out and garlanded him with many garlands. Then there was a tailor who again said, "We have some beautiful clothes for you," and he gave the clothes to them. So all of them then, of course, were delightedly gave them, because having watched this washerman, they certainly didn't want to follow in their footsteps. So then they walked forward and they asked, where is the bow kept? The festival, where's this bow kept? Because the festival was actually on the next day. The wrestling match was kept for the next day. So he said, "Where's the bow kept?" So somebody pointed out the huge shed where there's this beautiful bow. It was almost like a rainbow because it was filled with jewels, and there were guards, bristling with guards. Nobody was allowed to go anywhere near the where the bow was kept. And the Krishna just walked into that, and before the guard could say, "Stop, don't go in," he already entered. And he said, "Stop, don't take up the bow," he already took up the bow. He said, "Stop, don't string the bow," he already strung the bow. Dung, he broke the bow with a tremendous sound. And that sound was heard by Kamsa in his palace. He said that he thought it was the chord meant for this, for the, the symphony of his death, approaching death. He shivered and shook in his band, and he knew that that was certainly a chord which meant that he was going to die soon. And he didn't know. So he called all his people and said, "Place the elephant right at there. Don't let him get beyond the elephant." And he told Mushrika and Chanura were the meanest, vilest wrestlers that you could ever find in the whole country. He told them, "Look, you should not let them escape. If at all he escapes from that elephant, you should see to it that their necks are broken the moment you catch hold of them." And then he told all the others, all of them had already, and he gave all the orders. Now, after this was over, the children went back to their camp, and next morning they had no fears at all. They were very happy, even though they had heard that they were going to be killed. They were not disturbed. They had a very happy night. They didn't spend any restless night or anything like that. So they woke up in the morning. All of them went in high fettle and spirits to the arena where everything had been planned for their death. So as he went, the huge pachyderm called Kuvalayapidam, he was standing there, and the Mahout was on the Mahout gave a poke to the thing and, "Come on, charge," and kill him. So the elephant charged, and of course Krishna evaded him easily, and then he waited just in front of him, and at the last moment he went this way. So the elephant, his tusks went into right into the earth. Then he came to, can you hear? Then he came to the back, and then the elephant turned round and round. He pulled the tail of the elephant and made him go round and round and round and round. This was a game he loved to do in Raja when with the cows, He was quite used to that. It's only a case of just difference. One was a cow and the other, this is an elephant. Huge elephant, but it didn't make much of a difference to him. So he made him go round and round and round. Eventually, he went under the feet of this elephant was in a totally maddened state. He pulled out his tusks and killed him. And then both of them took a tusk on their shoulders. They kept one each on their shoulders, and that's how they entered the arena. And everybody had already seated. All the Gopas were already seated on one side, the kings and so many others had come. All of them were seated. And Shuka says, to each one he appeared in a different light. To his own people, he was their savior. To those of the Braja, they thought him as their savior. Obviously, I'm not meant to get excited. I should be calm and cool and take it easy. So they saw him as their parents, of course, saw him as their son, and I think it's worse now. And I can't hear. I don't think this is very. Oh. So, and to his the wrestlers saw him as death incarnate, and to each one, and the yogis saw him as the embodiment of that supreme. So they entered in this fashion, and they looked around, and each Chanura, Mushrika came up to them and challenged them to a fight. So Krishna said, we are just poor, ordinary country bumpkins, just arrived from Raja. We are not used to wrestling with such hefty guys, huge, hefty, thick fellows like that, all set to fight. And the lovely-looking, slender boys were standing in front. So he said, we are not used to fighting with you all, with such people. So the Mushtika said, what are you talking? You, a small boy, look at the way a person was killed, Kuvalaya Pedam, is not certainly not a small, a mean wrestler. We can, I'm sure you can, we can challenge you both to a fight. So they said, all right, and then they started. Because, wrestling was the sort of thing which these boys delighted in when they were in, because they had not much of pastime. So whenever they went to herd the cows, in between they have little mock wrestling fights and all that. So that's the usual style. So of course, Krishna girded up his loins and then waited for him, and the others, they'll slap their thighs, and they were full of, and they went forward, all set to. So and also Krishna always enjoyed a good, fisticuffs and wrestling with some people. So he went into it with great enthusiasm, and very soon he took these huge fellows and threw them, whirled them around, and threw. One was thrown by Balaraman, the other by Krishna. And they had this band of drums and so on and so forth, drummers and so on. And Kamsa told them, as soon as the boys are killed, you should drum, and a crescendo sound should be there. As soon as the wrestlers were killed, they big band, they started drumming and trumpeting, and Kamsa said, stop it, where are they? Catch them, hold them, kill them, find them, confine them, put them in prison. Kamsa was in a desperate state. He knew his death was approaching. He was in a desperate state, and he shouted all contradictory orders to everybody. And then Krishna turned and faced Kamsa, and one leap he jumped. Kamsa was sitting on a dais. So in one leap he jumped on the dais, and Kamsa was no coward, but still he took his sword and ran towards him, and Krishna just held him up and twirled him out, and out of sheer fright, Kamsa died. Kamsa didn't do anything at all. Out of sheer fright, he had already died, and he threw him down on the arena in the mud and the dust, and there lay the king of the Bhojas. Yesterday was the greatest tyrant and dictator they had ever seen, and today there he was lying in the dust of the arena, and he jumped on top of him and shook him up and so on, because he was so angry with him having not only all the things he had done to him, but having put his parents and his father into dungeon for so many years. So that was the end of the tyrant of Mathura, and then we finished that with that, and next is that he brings his, he sent to the Sandipani college, alle? Oh, tea time. So then we have, so we can stop now for his get this. Next is he will be sent to school, to the Gurukulam, Sandipani in Avanti. So we will finish with that. A lot of stories have already been said after we talked last time. That is, you can hear. Lot of stories have been said after we spoke about Kamsa's death. At the end, the last we saw about Kamsa's death, isn't it? So after that, he goes to Nanda, and Nanda realizes that, this is not his real son. You can imagine how much sorrow Nanda felt at that, because and then Krishna comforted him and said, Father, the one who looks after a child, but at a time when he is not able to look after himself, that is the true father, that is the true mother, and not the father and mother who might have given birth to him. And so on, and he returns, of course, in sorrow, and then Krishna goes and meets his own parents. And again, they are also filled with sorrow that they have missed out all the best part of his childhood. Then Vasudeva realizes that even though Rama and Krishna are really the Supreme Incarnated, that yet they should go through at least some form of learning. So they send him to the great guru known as Sandipani, who is in Avanti, which is modern Ujjain. And there in 64 days, they learn the 64 subjects which are normally taught. So then they return, and after they return, one of the main things here is he sends Uddhava, his prime minister, his friend and his devotee. He sends him to Gokula to try and comfort his parents, because he knows that they must be waiting, and the gopis. So when he reaches at evening, and that whole night they spend with Nanda and Yashoda talking all about him, and all the time they were immersed in his stories. Next morning the gopis hear that somebody has come, and they are doubtful whether it's that same old Adikrura who has come to give them more trouble. But then they were told that it's a messenger from Krishna. So Uddhava meets him in the forest, and then at first they think he is Krishna himself. Because always when people look at Uddhava in the first glance, they think he is Krishna. Because he always wears Krishna's garlands, his clothes, his cast-offs, of everything he cast off Krishna, Uddhava would take and wear it. So he looked exactly like Krishna. So at first when they saw that there was Krishna, they ran towards him because they almost threw themselves into his arms. Then suddenly they looked at him and realized, no, this is not Krishna, it's somebody else. So then they hung back in a bit of a little shy. But then slowly they crept back, and they started pestering him with questions. How is he? What is he doing? What are the women he is having in Mathura? What does he think? Does he ever remember? And so on. And they kept on pestering him with the questions. And Uddhava couldn't imagine such women like this who totally, there was no lack of, they were not at all shy at all of talking about their relationship with another man. Because for them it was not another man, it was about the very self that they were talking about. So he was amazed at this lack of total freedom they had, even with him. So then at that time a black bee, a bumblebee comes buzzing around, and this famous Brahmara Gita, or the ode to the bee, and supposedly Radha is always in a state of Mahabhava, where her thoughts are always immersed in Krishna, that whatever she sees is Krishna alone, whatever she does, smells, thinks, everything is Krishna and Krishna alone. So then she talks to the bee and says, why have you come here? Look at the red powder on your feelers. I see you must have sucked it from you must have got into the garland which Krishna wore, and the kumkum which some beauty of Madhura had on her forehead must have got into this garland, and you have gone there and you have got that powder on your feelers. Go away, I don't want to see you. Everything black is bad, she says. Go away. The same color, my Krishna you are. And I know you will cheat me. I know you will do so. And so on. She was raving and ranting. And then at last she said, the thing is that we cannot live, we cannot think, we cannot do anything. We have so totally the whole of Vrija is drowned in memories of Krishna. We were drowned in the sea of sorrow at his departure. That we can't ever think of anything. We can't have a life of our own, because he has so imbued us with all our whole lives are so filled with his form and his thing that we'd have no life of our own. Even now, we live only because of him and through him. And this went for some months actually. Then Krishna Uddhava read out the message which Krishna had sent them, and he told them, you should not, he said, you should not grieve, because knowing me to be the self of all, realize that you can never be parted from me. Even if you want to be, you can never be parted from me, because I'm part of you. I'm always in you, and I will never leave you. In fact, I can even, I said, even if I take 1,000 births, I cannot repay you for that unselfish, totally unselfish love which you have poured on me. And when they heard this, it was a little bit, they felt a bit better. And Uddhava stayed there for a few months because he realized that actually Krishna had not sent him there with a message for the gopis. Krishna had sent him so that he would learn something from the gopis, because such love as they bore, he would never see again anywhere, at any time. So Uddhava stayed there. At the end of his stay there, he prostrated at the feet. This great man who was the Shishya of Brahaspati, who was Buddhi Sattama, his description of Uddhava, that he is a great, highly intelligent soul. He has mastered all the sciences and all the arts that anyone can know, and he is also the Prime Minister to Krishna. Yet that this man, he falls at the feet of these milkmaids, poor milkmaids of Gokula, and says, you know, the dust of your feet is something which will purify all the three worlds, because such is the devotion you have to the Lord, that ever afterwards you will be extolled. As long as the world lasts, you will be extolled as the greatest devotees of Lord Krishna. And then after that, he returns much to their sorrow, but they feel better actually that he had come, and he also realizes what exactly he always knew the divinity of Krishna, but he didn't realize how much what impression he had made in these 12 years on the hearts and the whole culture of that Gokula. That is why even today, you know, most people, the books which are written, the songs which are sang, some of the greatest art and music and culture and the sculpture of this land is always around the time he spent in Vraja, and time he spent in, and actually a very short, when you look at it, a very short part of his life was really spent in Vraja. The major portion of his life was spent in Dwaraka. But somehow that has made such an impression on the minds of all of us, mainly because of the love that the gopis bore for him, because that has drenched or completely, totally absorbed by the very soil of Vraja, that even today, if you go to Vrindavan, you'll find the energy or the vibrations of this love which the gopis bore to him are still existing today. So despite the overhead culture of, the people and priests and pandas and so on, yet underlying that you will find this amazing energy of that gopis who has borne such love for him. So then they come back, Uddhava goes back. And at that time, the Lord sends Akrura. He has promised Akrura and Kubja. I think I left out. I don't know how I left it out, because it's too much near my heart. Maybe on that first day when he had walked down the road to the bow, where the bow of Shiva had been kept, one of the people he met was a strange figure came trundling around him. A funny little figure, was kind of, you couldn't see her face, but because she had 3 humps, she was called Trivakra Kubja, and she was kind of hobbling towards him. And he went and stood right before her. She couldn't see his face because she couldn't lift herself up, but she saw his feet, the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, you see. And he just stopped there, and she heard his mellifluous voice asking him, "Oh Sundari," he said, "who are you taking this thing to?" And she got a shock. She thought nobody had ever called her anything, but even her own mother had never called her Sundari. Sundari means, "oh beautiful one, most beautiful one." So nobody had ever called her that. Or everybody called her, even though actually her name was Malini. Or everybody had all called only Trivakra or Kubja, that was 3-humped one, or one with a big hump on her back. So nobody had ever called her anything but these horrible names. So she didn't know where this voice was coming. She tried her best to look up and she couldn't look up. And then what he did was he pressed his toe on her foot and put his hand under her chin, and he just simply lifted her up like this. So all her humps were taken out, and she stood straight and tall before him. And he said, "Let the world see the beauty of your soul in the beauty of your face," or Kubja, he said. And she was so grateful. And he asked, "Who are you taking this sandal? Who are you taking the sandal paste for?" He asked. She said, "Who but you, my Lord? Who else is more worthy of having the sandal paste than you?" So, and then so saying, she took the sandal paste and smeared it all over him. And then he was going on, you see, he walked forward, and she caught him by this uttariyam as she was going and pulled him, and he turns back to look at her. And in the Balrama was just in front of him, and he glared at him like this. "What is this in the middle of the street of Mathura? Here is you are indulging a woman who's soliciting you in the midday at this like this." So she said, don't leave me, please don't leave me." And he didn't know. He laughed and said, "Come with me, please come to my house," he said. Again another glare from Balrama. What is this nonsense? His younger brothers just indulging in this sort of affairs in the middle of the street. So Krishna looked at her and said, "Yes, I will come after I finish killing Kamsa." So he had given her that promise at that time. So now he had also given a promise to Akrura, as you remember. So now he decides to, after Uddhava comes back, he decides he goes both to Akrura, Akrura whom he had promised to come, as well as to Kubja. And after that, you come down next to his, at that, his, the Kamsa's wives were the daughters of the great king Jarasandha of Magadha, modern Bihar. Even at that time, Biharis were pretty bad, I think. They were in a bad state even at that time, even though Lord Buddha himself had given maybe so many later on. But it's a strange fact of Bihar that from the time of Jarasandha itself, they seem to be kind of strange people. Anyway, to say the least. So then he was. Jarasandha, the daughters went back to their father. Jarasandha was a very powerful king. So they went back to their father and complained that Krishna had killed Kamsa and he should take revenge. So Jarasandha is supposed to have come again and again and again with a huge army. Huge akshaunis of army after army came upon Mathura and besieged it and beleaguered it and cut it off from water and so on. And then Krishna realized that this Mathura was totally exposed, and it would not be. He didn't want to spend the rest of his life fighting with Jarasandha and people like him, who would obviously keep coming again and again and trying to, occupy the place. So then he decides that, and he is supposed to have gone to this island called, a place called at that time it was known as Kushasthali in modern Gujarat. At the tip of Gujarat, the name of the place was Kushasthali in those times, and he took over that place, and then he, by a series of forced marches, or the Bhagavatam says that he took them by his psychic siddhis, flew them all across to this place, and he also reclaimed the land from the sea, and he made this beautiful, wonderful city called of Dwaraka. And Dwaraka, that's one, though, and everybody thinks these are all imaginations and such things didn't exist. But luckily for us, in this age and time, so many excavations have been done just outside the Gulf of Cambay, and they have found out this fantastic city, which must have been thousands of years old, and everything laid out exactly as the Mahabharata has described it. So today, the historicity of Krishna has been proved beyond a doubt, if we do need it at all. For Indians, of course, it was not a matter of consequence. We knew that very well that such a figure must have existed. But when the Westerners came, they tried to inculcate the idea that these were all figments of Vyasa's imagination and they never really existed. But now, as I said, with modern technology, this has been proved beyond a doubt that this fantastic city did exist. Very, very modern city in which even drainage system and so on was so perfect in that city. So, and many artifacts have also been brought out. And as I said, this is the place he took his people to, and he built the Yadavas, all the Yadavas who had been unsettled by Kamsa were all brought back, and he put Ugrasena again as a king, and because he refused to take the kingship for himself. He refused to be the king, and he put Ugrasena as the king of the Yadavas, and he made one of the most beautiful, not only beautiful army, but an impregnable fortress it was. So Jarasandha says he repulsed him 17 times, and eventually Jarasandha was decided he got the help of Yavana. That Yavana means a foreigner, and Kala Yavana he was known, and he brought his own army, and he also tried to fight with Krishna. Now Krishna took a strange method. He had all his own strange methods of how he could get rid of his enemies and so on. So he wearing just a lotus garland and peacock feather in his hair. He pretended he was hiding and slipped out of the gates of Mathura, but he just allowed Kalayavana to see him. Kalayavana was thrilled. He said, aha, this must be the Krishna. I've heard about him. I know he dresses exactly like this. So then he's trying to escape me, and he chased him. So Krishna ran all the way, and he knew. There was a great king called Muchukunda. He also belonged to the Ikshwaku dynasty, and he had fought for the gods at one time, and he had got a boon from the gods. The only thing he said he wanted was to be allowed to sleep without being disturbed by all sorts of people. Some people love to sleep, and then their parents go and wake them up. The mother goes and, come on, it's time to go to school, or come on, it's time to go to work. And this Muchukunda was one of those people who just loved to sleep. So the gods easily gave him this particular boon. So then he was happily sleeping in the cave. But he had also got the boon that if anyone woke him up before he wanted to wake up, they would die. He could by his look. So Bhagavan knew that Muchukunda was sleeping there, and that he had also promised to give him darshan of him. So he ran into this cave, and with Kala Yamuna following closely on his heels, and Krishna stood behind a pillar, and Kala Yamuna thought this must be Krishna because there was a man sleeping there with all covered up. So Kala Yamuna went and gave him one good kick, and Muchukunda threw off his blanket and put it in his baneful glare on this Kala Yamuna, and Kala Yamuna was burned to cinders immediately. So then Muchukunda turned around and saw this beautiful form of Lord Krishna, and he said, "Who are you? What is your?" And first of all he said, "I'm so and so. I'm the coming from the line of Ikshwaku," and he said all the things which he had to say. And then he asked Krishna, "Who are you?" Now Krishna said, if I have to tell you who I am, it'll take quite a long time. So let's make it short. At the moment, I am the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, belonging to the Bhojas. So then he realized, then Muchukunda of course realized who he was, and he extolled him with a beautiful hymn. And Krishna told him that he would have only. Muchukunda told him, I've been a king and I've wasted my life getting victories and so on and so forth. Please allow me, tell me how I can gain freedom from all these desires. So Krishna gave him advice, and he told him that this will be your last birth. What are the things you should do, and then sent him off. And then, of course, finally, when Jarasandha once more tried, Krishna and Rama are supposed to have jumped onto this, run into the forest, in the hill, Gomantakal hill near Dwarka, and Jarasandha set fire to the whole hill and thought that he had made, killed his enemy. But Rama and Krishna had their Siddhic powers, and they jumped clear of the fire and returned back to Dwarka. And there, very soon, Balarama's wedding to Revati, the princess, the original king of Kushasthali, who was Revakan, and her father had come there, and in fact they had been told Revati was a huge statuesque figure, because they had really gone away they had gone for a short time to this thing of Brahma. He had taken his daughter and gone there, and then he found out that then he decided he'll come back. Then Brahma told him, all the people you knew when you were there, because time is totally, the hundreds of years had already passed. So he says, nobody you know will be left remaining. And also people's stature must be much smaller, and they go shorter and shorter. These all huge, enormous figures. So he said, the only person who will be fit to marry you is Balarama, the scion of the Yadava race. So they go back there, and his marriage to Balarama's marriage to Revati and he gets the bride price again of that part of that country known as around Kushasthali. So now we stop here, and then after his education was finished, his preceptor asked him who wanted to give him a dakshina, and he asked him what he wanted, and he said, my son has been drowned off the coast of Prabhasa, so I would like to have him back. So the Lord goes there and finds out that he was told that the demon he went to Varuna's abode and said, bring his son back. And he said, no, I don't have him. Actually, the Asura called Shankachuda is the one who has taken him. And Shankachuda actually is a small island, which is now known as Bet Dwarga, next to Dwarka. So he goes into this thing and kills the Asuras in the form of a conch. So that conch he takes. That is the Panchajanyam which he has with him, and he saves a child and brings him back to his guru, and he gets his blessing. And now he's already in Dwaraka, and they are well ensconced. Balarama is already married, and we are entering into the first marriage of Lord Krishna with Rukmini, the princess of, the daughter of Bhishmaka. And this, we are just entering into that. So in fact, the whole of this thing, though so many marriages are there, only Rukmini Swayamvaram is really such an important one, because you can't keep on, going to all these weddings. How many weddings? 16,008. Not that easy for us. Even if we do go to one wedding every day, we are hardly going to get through the whole lot. So now we will do this. So Rukmini Swayamvaram. So, are you ready? Okay. Can you hear? So one day when Krishna was in the hall, Dwarka had this hall called Sudharma, where he would meet all the people who came with something, some complaint, or they wanted to say something. All the matters of state were actually discussed in this hall called Sudharma. As he was sitting there, an old Brahmin had come along. And he said, so he was he received the Brahmin with with a lot of respect, and told him, and asked him, what is it you want? So he said, I've come from the country of Vidarbha. Now Vidarbha was a country in which the king was Bhishmaka was there. Bhishmaka had 5 sons and 1 daughter, and her name was Rukmini. Now Rukmini had heard from Narada, no doubt, from the time she was a child, about the greatness of Lord Krishna, and she had given her heart wholly to him. And she was determined that she wouldn't marry anybody else but him. But in the meantime, her father actually, Bhishmaka, was all set, was very happy to get her married to Krishna. But her brother Rugmi was not at all happy about it because he had his own friend called Shishupala. Shishupala is another old friend of ours. You remember the three who were to be born, the Jan Vijaya, he was one of those. So it was, he was actually a cousin of Krishna, but he hated Krishna for some reason or other. And he was a king of the prince of Chedi. So Rukmini had promised that he would be given, her sister Rukmini would be given in marriage to Shishupala. Now, Rukmini was desperate. She begged her father to intervene, but he said, I'm helpless. These boys are, they have threatened to kill me if I do anything, if I don't do what they want. So then she didn't know what to do, and she knew, she was really wondering what, because it was on almost the eve of her wedding, eve of her wedding. And she was wondering, how should I get in touch with her? In those days, no cell phones, no landlines, nothing of the sort, and not even a postal service. Otherwise, long ago, she might have sent a letter to him. But now, since there was no other way, suddenly who appears? One old Brahmin suddenly comes to her palace. And sheer luck, I mean, normally such Brahmins don't wander in and out of princesses' palaces normally. But then she was so happy to see him, she called him and said, will you do a favor for me? So I said, what? He said, I have a letter for Krishna, the prince of the Yadavas. Will you please take it to him as fast as possible? So Brahmin said, oh yes, why not? So she wrote a letter to him, and she had sent it through this Brahmin. And this was a Brahmin who now came to the hall of Sudharma and said, I have brought this letter from Rukmini, the princess of Vidharma. So Krishna said, oh, all right, please read it aloud. So Brahman said, I think it's a kind of a secret letter. He said, never mind, read it aloud. Let everybody hear it. So the very first words of this letter was, Shrutvan Bhuvana Sundara, having her, oh, thou most handsome man of the whole of the three worlds, I have heard of your wonderful deeds and I've heard so much about you, and I've totally lost my heart to you. And I'm afraid that my hand has been promised in marriage by my brother to Shishupala. He's only a jackal. Let not a jackal take away the prize which has been kept for a lion. You are a Narasimha, the lion amongst men. So please take me away. I don't want to marry this man. So I have totally lost my heart to you. Please, not that she'd ever seen him ever, but only having Shrutvan Gunan. I have having heard of your wonderful exploits and your glories, I have given my heart to you, is what she said. So, and then she continued to say, actually the marriage is fixed for tomorrow, and you might be wondering how you can take me away, because it'll be closely guarded, I'll be closely guarded, but I will let you into a secret. I'll tell you exactly how you can take me away. Tomorrow morning, she says, they will take me to the deity, family deity, the goddess, to pray to Parvati for having a good marriage. And after that, when I come out of the temple after praying to Parvati, that is a good opportunity for you to take me off, says she. So he says, and please do come at that time and take me off by the Rakshasa marriage. There are many 7 types of marriages which are mentioned in the Puranas, and Rakshasa type is when you abduct a woman and in the face of the opposition of her relations, you will take her off and fighting with the relations, you will take her off and marry her. So this is the Rakshasa type. She said, anyway, even if it's a Rakshasa type, please do take me away and marry me, she says. And then as a small sort of a threat underneath that, she says, if by some chance you can't make it, or you don't want to marry me, or if there's some other reason if you won't come, I shall fast from birth to birth to birth until at last I get you as my husband. She says, I mean, I will, I don't mind. Every birth I will fast. I will die until eventually you will agree to be my husband. The small little threat also at the end of the love letter. So it's very strange that Rukmini, never before and never after do we ever find her being a bold and a very forward type of a woman. She never was. She's always one of his meekest and mildest of his wives. Very sweet natured, very sweet. This thing. She never pushed herself forward like Satyabhama, for instance. But, but but then, so it is very, very strange that of all time that she should have so boldly written a letter, not only asking him to marry her, but to take her away by force against the wishes of her brother and so on. So then I'm sure the Lord must have also thought to herself, this is rather a strange letter to get from a totally unknown princess he has never seen. And what sort of a girl must she be that she can write a letter like that? But his policy, his principle in life, and when he saw, is that somebody making a noise there? Am I echoing over there? Echo. As I said, his policy in life was whichever woman threw herself at his head, he would marry her. He never checked to see what type of woman she was. The only thing was that she obviously loved him in order to risk even the anger of her parents or the anger of her brothers and so on. That was all. When her heart was totally given to him, he never refused. In Ramavara, he had Egapatni Vrida. Here he had Bahupatni Vrida. So he was all. He never said a word to the Brahmin. He said, immediately he jumped up. It was next day was the thing, and he had to go all the way to Vidarbha. So he called for his chariot, and without even waiting to tell Balarama or anybody, he jumped in his chariot, took the Brahmin along with him, and his fast horses, Shaibhya, Valahala, Bahuka, and Meghapushpa, they were horses from Sindh, were very Arab horses they were. So they were very, very fast. And he jumped on that, got the Brahmin also beside him, and he flew. He must have literally flown to cover this enormous distance. Overnight he went. And just as, and when he reached there in the morning, the citizens were all, so happy to see that, and they prayed in their hearts, if our princess should have a husband, let it be him, because he is the only fitting husband for our princess. So he went, and at that time, Rukmini had just finished praying at the temple, and she was just coming out, and Rukmini was filled with. Before that, the Brahmin had come and told her, "Don't worry, Krishna has already entered," and she was so happy. And otherwise, she might not even have refused to go to this thing. So she went to the temple, and she came out, and she was trembling with anxiety and hope and fear. And as she came out, she just lifted up her veil just for a minute to have a look, is he anywhere around? And all the princes, the number of princes, it was supposed to be a Swayamvara, even though she had been promised to Shishupala. Many princes of the realm had come, and they all gasped with the light. Rukmini was a very petite little beauty, very sweet and when she opened her veil, everybody was struck with her beauty. And for a moment, they were all stunned. And she couldn't find him, so she left the bank. She walked forward. At this time, when all the others were stunned and waiting like statues, Krishna came in his chariot and quickly grasped her and said, "Hey, Rukmini, where are you going? This is our chariot. Don't go over there." So, and he pulled her up and made her sit with him, and off they went. He, spurred up the horses, and they flew through the ranks of the princes, all who were so bewildered, they didn't know what was happening. And he went forward. In the meantime, of course, Balarama had brought his army, and all the others, Jarasandha and all, Dandavaktra and all this number of helpers of Shishupala, they all chased after him. And her brother Rukmi, but Balarama stopped them, and so the Lord was able to take Rukmini off. And then the Jarasandha and the rest of them came back. The only one who didn't know what was happening was Shishupala, the bridegroom. Shishupala was Shishupala was sitting, he was in a dream world when he would get married to Rukmini and how happy they would be, and they were all. And then suddenly, a lot of commotion going on. So he didn't know what it was all about. And when this time, Jaras and the others came back, and Shishupala said, "What? Where? Where's the bride? What happened? What's happening around here?" So Jara said, "Don't worry. I mean, it's just that that Krishna, that rascal, the cowherd boy. He's absconded with Rukmini." So Sujwal said, "He's gone with. Why didn't you catch her? Bring her back. I must get married. I mean, I love Rukmini. I must have Rukmini back." So Jarasan said, "Don't worry. There are plenty of women in this world. If not Rukmini, we will see that you get another very nice wife." So Sushma said, "No, I don't want anyone except Rukmini. And moreover, I've even built a palace in her name. Rukmini Palace, I've called it." So Jarasandha very unfeelingly said, "Well, you just have to rename it all over again." So then that was the end. Poor Shishwal. In the meantime, of course, Krishna was on the way and these people are chasing him. And Rukmini caught up with him. And Krishna was just about, Rukmini caught up with him and was, shooting arrows at him. And so Krishna was on the point of killing him actually. And Rukmini fell at his feet and said, "Please don't kill my brother. I don't want you to kill my brother." So he said, "Okay." And he cut off his top knot, because that's good as killing, and sent him. Rukmini was so angry that he swore that he'll never go back to his own city. And he built another city for himself until and unless he killed Krishna, he would never return to his own city. And Balarama also gave a lot of advice to Krishna. "This is your brother-in-law, and how are you going to kill him?" and all that. Krishna didn't say a word because he knew one day or other in the future, Balarama himself would be the one to kill Rukmini.